Welcome back, class, and welcome to TVRA 134 Media Appreciation, Chapter 8, Television, Cable, and Specialization in a Visual Culture. So how do you consume TV? Does your family gather around the TV to watch any shows? Maybe you guys binge watch. Maybe you have a favorite show that you like to watch in your own time. So how do you consume television? Is it through cable, watching Netflix, Hulu, Max? Seemed like a strange way to consume media, but is it? Some of our fantasy type shows like The Twilight Zone, which began decades ago, still remain popular today, and other sort of noir mystery type shows are very popular today. So just think about, what does your family gather around to watch? And what's the role of TV in your life now? Do you use it to enjoy your spare time, maybe escape your problems, to learn something perhaps? So back in the 1920s to 1930s, a gentleman named Vladimir Zworykin converted light into electrical signals using something he called the iconoscope. Philo Farnsworth actually transmitted these pictures using electrons, and his statue is actually in the Capitol here in Washington, D.C. During World War II, the FCC, or Federal Communications Commission, halted the development of television. In 1948, television's growth was so rapid that the FCC imposed a freeze on news station licenses, and content controlled first by the sponsor in some shows, a cigarette company, a producer of gas stations, or a car company, maybe like Buick or Ford, would control the entire, or sponsor the entire TV show, rather than the magazine format where we see now on television, where we have a show segment, then a cluster of commercials, and then a show segment, and then another cluster of commercials. At this time, content or one program was sponsored by one sponsor. Later, we did more by selling network ads in the form of commercials, and commercials air either as 5 seconds, 10 second, 15, 20s, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, some are even 2-minute commercials these days. But back in 1952, the FCC established rules to minimize interference. So you didn't want to turn on the TV, your favorite station, have a lot of interference and not be able to consume your favorite programs. There were 12 VHF stations and 70 UHF channels. The 1939 World's Fair was the first televised presidential speech, and can you guess who the president is there in 1939? Take a guess. Maybe you can remember back from history class. That's Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The golden age of television was really starting in the 1950s. There was a lot of growth and experimentation, a lot of pioneering programs like Ed Sullivan's Toast of the Town, which was a variety show. Milton Berle's Texaco Star Theater. Ed Sullivan had the Beatles on in the early 60s, part of the British invasion. Milton Berle had Harpo Marx on, of the Marx Brothers. He had Elvis Presley on doing some of his famous songs. So they got the most exciting talent at the time to come on and perform. High quality dramas like Studio One, also popular at that time, were symphony orchestras in studio. NBC had their own studio orchestra on site in Rockefeller Center. Also, adult westerns like Gunsmoke. Bonanza was another popular one. Quiz shows became popular at that time. Kind of the forerunner of game shows, but some of them were found out to be rigged. In other words, show producers would keep on the show contestants that brought in higher ratings. Sometimes they would give them the answers or maybe give them questions that they knew that person would be able to answer. The contestants that did not do well with audiences, they would get rid of them rather quickly. The television in the 1960s, in 1960, there were TVs in more than 95% of US homes. So TV was a phenomenon that was so popular, and people really, really wanted to be a part of it, have it in their homes, and enjoy it. In 1965, TV news expands from 15 to 30 minutes. TV journalism earns praise with, President Kennedy and that debate with he and Vice President at the time Nixon, and Civil Rights Unit, the moonwalk. In 1967, the Public Broadcasting Act establishes PBS, also the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which also included NPR, National Public Radio. Cable grows through the 1960s. It was really started in the 1940s as CATV. Escapist and fantasy fare dominates. People love to be entertained and watch something to get out of their own reality. In the 1970s, there's a growing public concern. Surgeon General's report on violent TV. They were wondering and found that there was a modest connection between heavy viewing and violence among some children. I think we wonder that with television today and what we consume online, also what we consume with gaming. Citizen groups like the Action for Children's Television, minority group coalitions influence broadcasting policy. The cable industry began competing with television, meaning the original networks, or the three that remained, ABC, NBC, and CBS. Programming trends included crime dramas, then adult sitcoms, and primetime soap operas. So daytime soap operas would include things like Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, The Young and the Restless. And primetime soap operas would have included shows like Dallas or Falcon Crest. Those types of shows were very popular in the 70s and in the 80s. As far as programming goes, there were a lot of news and information shows, entertainment. Comedy was very, very popular, like All in the Family and MASH. Entertainment, we had a lot of dramas. We had anthology style shows, which would be new each week. Episodic shows would be continuing chapter or serial. Talk shows and news magazine shows. Talk shows were popular and still are today. You could probably name a few. The Drew Barrymore has her own talk show. Ellen DeGeneres had a talk show. Who else? Maury Povich. There were so many through the years. News magazine shows like Dateline NBC or like 60 Minutes. Reality television started to become more popular because you don't need a script. It's actually cheaper to produce in a lot of situations. And public television, which is a different economic model. So that would include shows on PBS. They get money from the federal government to produce, and also larger corporations sometimes will contribute money to public television, like the Helena Rubinstein Foundation. Also from viewers like you can donate money to help support your favorite shows. In the 1980s and 1990s, there was increased competition, continuing erosion of the big three networks' audiences. So those were ABC, NBC, and CBS. In the 1980s, Fox came out with their own network channel. And then we also had increased competition from new networks and cable channels. So in the 1980s, like when Discovery started out, they started out with just Discovery, but then they realized, hey, we can make more cable channels. So then they increased the number of channels they had to kind of take up that cable space. And so they added Animal Planet and Discovery Science, and they had Discovery Kids and TLC and Food Network. I mean, it just kept going on and on and on. Also, A&E started out, and then they added the History Channel, then they added the Biography Channel, the CI Network, History International, etc., etc. So superstations were local but broadcast on satellites nationwide, and specialized cable channels became more popular, like MTV, and then the spinoff, of course, was VH1, Nickelodeon, several religious channels, premium cable channels like HBO, also Showtime. So contemporary broadcast television audiences are shrinking. Advertisers their dollars are going to the web. The big four networks are using new distribution channels. Digital video recorders like DVRs allow customers to fast forward, as it were, through commercials. Greater reliance on reality shows than scripted shows. Like I said, they were cheaper to produce generally, but are broadcast networks still the best way for advertisers to reach audiences? Let's think about that one. So television in the digital age, June 19th, 2009, all stations were broadcasting digital TV, no longer analog. Advantages of digital television were clearer pictures and sound, that more rectangular format similar to a movie screen, that's 16 by 9 rather than the 4 by 3, and allows high definition TV, HD TV, of course, and channels can be subdivided and multiple programs can be sent at the same time. So once broadcasters discovered the web, more programs became available on the internet. Full screen, high resolution streaming video, original online content, social networking options, advertising on sites and in streaming video, also podcasts. Local stations need to do more and change their models in order to evolve and keep audiences. So mobile TV, media content, video clips, TV shows, movies, lifts, etc., that a person can download from iTunes and other sources. Broadcasters are supplying content to cell phones now. And what is user-generated content, you might wonder? Well, broadcasters were first to realize the potential of user-generated content, such as America's Funniest Home Videos. You at home might record something on your recorder, send it in on a VHS tape, and they air it on TV. So how did these older forms of user-generated content relate to video sharing giants like YouTube? Very similar. You upload your content, right? So production for TV, local production, news, talk shows, parades, and local sports is what you might see on your local station. Network programs, higher cost. Those would include things like NCIS, network news, and national sports. Then there are those syndicated programs, something like E.T. or Access Hollywood, Judge Judy, also shows like Jeopardy and other late night game shows like that. Could be Wheel of Fortune, etc. Distribution outlets, broadcast networks, cable networks, syndication companies, network affiliate contracts. Local station will carry a network program, so the network pays the station some type of compensation. So compensation is decreasing and may be eliminated in the near future. And syndication companies lease content to individual stations in local markets, and the profitable aftermarket for primetime TV series. So once an expensive show such as NCIS would be produced, say for CBS, that will air in reruns on different channels. It will be on streaming services perhaps. And we will continue in part 2. I see we are running out of time. Stay tuned for